My career started in retirement planning in 1996. I'm originally from Portland, Maine, and I just started working harder than everybody else in this industry right away, but certain things came naturally to me too. So I started working with retirees, and we started working in the Medicare industry, and we started doing a lot of long-term care planning. And at 22 years old, you don't really know what that stuff is typically. But I was just really good at it right away. It was something that was very natural to me, right? And I loved it, so I could throw myself right into it. And so for about 3.5 years, that's what I did. I worked just, harder than everybody else did, and outworked everybody, and found new ways to meet people and grow an insurance business, really, for lack of a better word, grew an insurance business in a town called Lewiston, Maine, which is just north of Portland. And that's where I built that's where I started. And when I was 25 years old, I wanted to start my own insurance agency. I wanted to be independent. And the company I worked for had different ideas on that. They wanted me to just sell their product, And as I ended up growing in the industry, I just realized that there was more out there than just this one particular product. So I moved to Florida temporarily. I had some friends in Florida, and they said, hey, why don't you come down to Florida? We got this great place. It's called The Villages. They got like 18,000 people that live here, It's like 175,000 today, by the way. So we're going back 25 years. Anyway, when I moved there, it was just a very natural place for me to be. Everybody was from the north. Everybody was retired. Everybody was worried about essentially the same issues that I grew up in, which I'll share in a minute. Everybody I talked to was worried about money. Everybody I talked to was worried about their health. Everybody I talked to was uncertain about the future and anxious. And you got to remember, this is back in like 2000, 2001, 2002, some of the worst years historically in the stock market. And so they were worried about their money, they're worried about their financial future. And I just happened to come along into this industry at a time when one particular product was designed to really fix a lot of that anxiety, and right place, right time. And then I think I had the right attitude and drive at that particular point in my life to be successful.
And you've now built it up. You have a staff of how many people? I mean, it's not just you anymore. You've got an entire staff.
Yeah, so the staff number has got to be close to 30 people, but we have, over time we grew. We were we did annuities and income planning and life insurance for a long time. And then, I always knew that you needed more than just annuities, but annuities are a big part of retirement income, as you know. And then, so in 2009, 2010, we started a tax planning firm, and quickly grew that into the largest tax planning firm in that community, which, by the way, is the largest retirement community in the world. So it's 3 zip codes, it's its own city. And so we built a tax planning firm and a tax preparation firm. A couple years later, 2012, we started a registered investment advisory firm. And so we had our fiduciary platform, fee-based asset management that was done by, obviously people that are licensed in that field. We had CPAs doing tax planning or licensed in that field. And then my role was to quarterback the planning for income. And we always started with income. We said, listen, retirement's about income. You saved your whole life for 40 years. You didn't do that so that when you get to retirement, you can save for the next 20 years. When are we going to start spending this money? And so our company has become a meaningful size, and we now have quite a few advisors, and we have quite a few back office support. We have 3 separate companies that work together. I wrote that book because I kept meeting people that were stuck with either misconceptions about how retirement planning should look or retirement strategies should be. And so I wanted to help people live based on their lifestyle first. So I said, forget about the money. What do you want to do? Forget about the money. What do you want to do? And then I think people were like a little, there was trepidation. They didn't want to tell me what they wanted to do. They wanted to tell me what they thought their money could do for them. And they had no idea they were underliving in their retirement. And what I mean by that was they were underspending. Okay, and so by underspending in retirement, they were accidentally leaving more money to their children. Now, if you want to leave more money to your children, I guess that's okay. I think there's better strategies, but none of them really wanted to. Like, nobody said to me, like, hey, I want to try to find new ways to go without doing fun things today, so when I get older, I can leave more money to my kids. Like, I've just never heard it, right? So they were accidentally or unintentionally doing something that they didn't even want to do. Right? Like if you're starting very young and you're going to start saving for retirement, that's like the accumulation stage of your life, and that's like climbing to the top of what I call retirement mountain. And it takes a long time to get to the top of the mountain, right? It's step by step, and you're going to slip and fall. But when you're climbing the mountain and you're in the accumulation phase, you brush yourself off and you get up and you keep climbing again. You make mistakes along the way, but you have so much time to recoup it, right? And then when you finally get to the top, right? When you finally get to the top of retirement mountain, it's completely different, right? You look around and you're like, this is amazing, we're retired, now what? Well, now you gotta go down the other side of the mountain, right? And there's two sides to the mountain, and it takes the opposite skill set to navigate the risks going down. And so you have all this time going up, because if you trip and fall or run into obstacles, you veer off the path, you come back on. If you veer off the path going down a mountain, the things that can happen to you are more treacherous potentially and harder to recover from. So our phrase and what I believe in is you should make your next 10 your best 10. If you just got income coming in, you're not doing anything with it, then and it's just saving, growing in your bank account, you just keep reinvesting it. That's not why you retired. Right. Now, it's not a bad problem to have too much income coming in, but there's a difference between income for a life and income for a living. And we, like I said, we got 3 phases of retirement. There's the first half of retirement, the second half, and there's overtime. And we want to make your next 10 your best 10. And that's what income for living means. Make your next 10 your best 10. Do you have a plan to do everything that you ever imagined in retirement over the next decade? Because guess what? If you're 65 today, you won't feel better than you do today when you're 75.
And the drives don't go as far when you're on the golf course.
Yeah, when you're on the golf course, it doesn't go as far. You can't see quite so well at night. You hold the book away. All those things are just like normal. Everybody knows that. As you get older, you don't get bigger, faster, stronger. Right? You just don't do it. And so we want to make your next 10 your best 10. And that means we have to build you a distribution strategy to do that. And I don't think a lot of advisors are talking to people about that.
Right.
I just don't. And why? Because I'm giving you back your money so you can go do fun things with it. Tell all your friends how much fun you had, and then you refer those friends back to us. And that's how we built, one of the largest firms in the country. We've got these annuities, and I know that people don't like the word annuity. I mean, I've seen the studies, the word annuity. People don't like the word annuity. If I could call it something different, I would. But they're called annuities. And the reality is they've changed quite a bit over the years. We call them modern annuities. And you can design these things to do some really phenomenal things with your retirement income. They can help you, I always say they can help you take the plastic off your retirement, right? In one of my chapters in the book, I talk about that, and we'll cover that in a second. But and what I mean by that is put a guarantee or a warranty around your retirement income so that you can build a retirement strategy that ensures you live the best first half of your retirement, which is the bucket list phase. The second half of retirement, which is, you start to slow down, you're going downhill just a little bit, but you want to maintain financial security. And then it will continue to provide for you when you get into what I call overtime. So I have 3 phases, mine are different than yours. I go first half, second half, overtime. When you get to overtime, that's about being independent, right? Like you love your kids, but you don't want to move back in with them, right? Like you want to maintain your own independence. And so we design modern annuity strategies to help cover all 3 stages of that. And then obviously we want to complement that with the right investment strategy through our investment team, and everything needs to be tied together with tax planning. I think tax planning is the name of the game. If you have an IRA or a 401k right now, and you're no longer employed in your 401k, if you have an IRA, you can convert it to a Roth.
Right.
And here's the difference between the two. I always give this simple example. Here's the difference between an IRA and a Roth IRA, okay? Tax deferred versus tax free. I said, forget about money. I tell every single event I've ever done at our learning lounge, our learning center, I always say, listen, forget about money. We're gonna Forget about investing in mutual funds with our seed money. We're not going to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or real estate. We're going to take seed money, and we're actually buy seeds. We're going to plant the seeds, we're going to grow crops. Okay, and there's basically two kinds of crops. There's probably different spin-offs in the middle, but there's basically two different types of crops. The one crop, you buy these red seeds, tax-deferred seeds, and every time you buy those seeds, you get a tax break. And that's really good, because if you can save the money now, it'll grow tax-deferred as well. So you get a tax break, and as the seeds take root and they grow tax-deferred. And that's been told to us as being a really good thing forever and ever, right? Because when you get to retirement, as you know, we'll all be in a much lower tax bracket. And that's just the story. Right. Well, that's the story. Anyway, when you get to retirement, So most people did that. It's called the IRA, and these seeds came out in like 1974-ish. And then in 1980, we came out with these new red seeds. Every 2 weeks, we'll take them out of your paycheck. You get a tax deduction. Every 2 weeks, the company would match some of it. They get a tax deduction. They all go into the red, the red trees, and they all take root, and they'll grow tax deferred. And so all of that money, when you think about it, these red crops, that's your tax deferred money. Okay, it's your 401k, it's your IRA, it's your 457, it's your 453. 403B, and it's your TSP or thrift savings plan. I'm sure I'm missing a couple others. Anything that you got a deduction on, tax deferred, means you are willing to get a deduction on the seed, and you're willing to pay taxes on the crop.
Yeah. On the
at
harvest,
some future date, at whatever the rate is.
Which you don't know.
Which you don't know.
Right.
We know what it is today.
Right.
It's the lowest it's ever been. Like in 50, 60, 70, 80 years even. Maybe 80 years right now.
Right.
And we just got a break. We just found out the other day we're getting another break in 2024. Taxes are going down again. Makes no sense to me. Or, so you can have this big crop of money that you've never paid taxes on. Never paid taxes on it. And you got to take the money out. It's not like you can keep it in there forever. You got to start taking it out at 73 now, I guess is the age. It changes every year now. You got to start taking that money out at 73. It's called the required minimum distribution. Guess what? It comes out as ordinary income. That's not like other assets or other taxes. So that gets added to your other income. And that means you can start paying stealth taxes on top of it. And it goes on and on and on. The point of it, if it's in the red, you got no idea what you have to pay on it. And it's going to be the highest tax, most likely, of any assets that you own. Now, the Roth IRA, conversely, works like this. And it's very simple. You pay taxes on the seeds, you get the crop for free. You get the income for free. If you don't take it, it grows tax-free. If you do take it, it's not reported as a taxable thing that creates your Medicare to go up. It passes on to children tax-free. They can keep it inside of the IRA for multiple years after you pass it on to them tax-free. And whereas the red trees can create a lot of problems. So we look at tax-free money and taxable money. Red, if you're in the red, that's generally pretty bad, right? And if your gut money's made out, money's green, right? So if it's tax-free is always better. And so what we found, and the reason we created our tax firm was, we found that most people have a tax preparer or a solution for tax preparation and almost no strategy whatsoever for how to mitigate future taxes. So we created a tax team. I couldn't even find one for myself. So I said, the heck with it. We'll go buy our own, hire our own CPAs. We've got full-time CPAs, full-time certified financial planners. They work with our investment advisors. They work with our insurance agents. And we all make sure that everybody gets a tax-efficient investment strategy and retirement income strategy using annuities and life insurance. Yeah, so pre-retirees, we're talking about like 10 years from retirement, 12 years from retirement, that type of thing. I think the risk there is becoming complacent, especially right now, because people that are 10, 12 years from retirement right now have spent half of their adult lives in a 0% interest rate environment where the only place to put money was in the stock market. And listen, we've just come off the worst 3 years in the history of the bond market. Stock market doesn't go up every year.
Right.
People think it does. Last year, it gave back, 1 year? And people are jumping up and down, Right. But the reality is we have not had a real recession in 12, 13, 14 years, and usually we have one every 7 or 8 years. And so I think the risk that pre-retirees face right now is expecting things to just continue. You got to be in the market, and it always just hang in there. It always comes back. Well, it doesn't always come back. The NASDAQ didn't come back. The NASDAQ changed out a bunch of companies, then it came back, but in 2000 it got cut by 50%. The S&P 500 went down 3 years in a row, 2000, 2001, 2002, and then in 2008 everybody remembers because it hit them where it hurt the most, it hit you at home. Everybody that I talk to that's retired that has the most money, they did it 2 weeks at a time. 2 weeks at a time. All they did was deduct or save a little bit 2 weeks at a time. Every single thing they did 2 weeks at a time. And if they have a little extra money, then it was like, you know, a windfall that was unexpected, and that's the money they get stressed out about. But when they do it 2 weeks at a time, saving money 2 weeks at a time, and I don't care what it is, real estate investments, stock, bond portfolio, life insurance, annuities, savings accounts, just having money in the bank makes you feel confident. Save your money. The happiest people I see in retirement, they just don't care about stuff. What they care about is financial security. And so for them, they started saving very, very early, and I would suggest anybody that's very young, make a decision on what you want to accomplish. Then do it and write it down. And then start saving a little bit. Start putting some money away, because you might want to invest in something, even if it goes into a bank account, which by the way, they're paying you interest now.
Right.
So even if you put it in a bank account and an opportunity can come along, you can invest in that. But do it consistently. It's like anything I've ever been good at in my life. You do it consistently, it becomes a habit.
Right.
And then habits become, you know, they become routine. And that's how you create wealth, because the quicker you start, the more time you have for that money to grow. And I know everybody that I talk to that's retired that has the most money, they did it 2 weeks at a time. 2 weeks at a time. All they did was deduct or save a little bit 2 weeks at a time. Every single thing they did 2 weeks at a time. And if they have a little extra money, then it was like, you know, a windfall that was unexpected, and that's the money they get stressed out about. But when they do it 2 weeks at a time, saving money 2 weeks at a time, and I don't care what it is, real estate investments, stock, bond portfolio, life insurance, annuities, savings accounts, just having money in the bank makes you feel confident. Save your money. Those are the happiest people I know. The happiest people I know are the ones that drive cars that are 10, 12, 14 years old. Now that would make me insane today, okay, personally. But the happiest people I see in retirement, they just don't care about stuff. What they care about is financial security. And so for them, they started saving very, very early, and I would suggest anybody that's very young, make a decision on what you want to accomplish. Then do it and write it down. And then start saving a little bit. Start putting some money away, because you might want to invest in something, even if it goes into a bank account, which by the way, they're paying you interest now.
Right.
So even if you put it in a bank account and an opportunity can come along, you can invest in that. But do it consistently. It's like anything I've ever been good at in my life. You do it consistently, it becomes a habit.
Right.
And then habits become, you know, they become routine. And that's how you create wealth, because the quicker you start, the more time you have for that money to grow. Yeah. The reality is, I think there are more opportunities for kids to make money than ever before, and that's the name of the game. You got to make money to save money.
Right.
Nobody ever saved a bunch of money because they made no money. So I think there's more ways to make money right now than there ever has been without a company necessarily paying you. There's so many ways to make a few dollars, but I call them a few dollars, but you know, you might turn $10 into $15. It's a 50% rate of return, right? And $100 into 120, it's 20% rate of return, and then save it. And so I think that the future's super bright for young kids. You know, up until like this year, Annuities were sort of not products that you'd look at, but with interest rates where they have just exploded, I think people 45 and older should be looking at protecting a source of income, because I've never seen rates this high in my 26 years in the industry since 1996. I'm sure you haven't seen rates this high like this, and we've never seen a market that's so volatile. So I think right now you would look at, if you're in that 45 plus market, and I'll talk about 25 plus in a second, but 45, 50 for sure. How can we preserve a portion of our retirement, a portion of our retirement assets to secure future income at rates that are contractually guaranteed at the highest they've been since the 80s? I talk to people about the 80s all the time. I go, remember in the 80s when you were paying interest? Now you can get the interest, right? So let's lock those rates in while you can.
And what I hear some people saying, oh, you should buy bonds because you can lock in these rates for 2 years or 5 years. You get the right annuity, you can lock it in for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so I think there's a trap that a lot of people have to be careful of right now. I talk to my peers about this, and that is buying these short-term fixed interest rates. Because short-term fixed interest rates are just that, they're short-term. If you buy something short-term, when you have to make a decision on that again, you're gonna be 5 years older. It gets harder and harder to make big decisions. And what are the chances that we'll have the highest interest rates we've ever had 5 years from now? But what you can buy right now is the highest income distributions I've ever seen.
Right.
And I've got enough gray now, I'm 50 years old this year. I finally say, I've been at this long enough where I can say I've never seen anything like it. I'm looking at them for myself. It's routine to see payouts in the 7 to 10% range, depending on your age and situation in retirement. And the longer you hold those products, the higher the payout. So if you're 45 or 50 right now, you could be buying something that really is a game changer for retirement. Yeah, so I think there's a trap that a lot of people have to be careful of right now. I talk to my peers about this, and that is buying these short-term fixed interest rates. Because short-term fixed interest rates are just that, they're short-term. If you buy something short-term, when you have to make a decision on that again, you're gonna be 5 years older. It gets harder and harder to make big decisions. And what are the chances that we'll have the highest interest rates we've ever had 5 years from now? But what you can buy right now is the highest income distributions I've ever seen.
Right.
And I've got enough gray now, I'm 50 years old this year. I finally say, I've been at this long enough where I can say I've never seen anything like it. I'm looking at them for myself. It's routine to see payouts in the 7 to 10% range, depending on your age and situation in retirement. And the longer you hold those products, the higher the payout. So if you're 45 or 50 right now, you could be buying something that really is a game changer for retirement. I would say a Roth IRA is really great for income. Cash value life insurance is really great for creating massive amounts of wealth in a very short period of time.
I'm a big believer in cash value life insurance. I know you are. So share some of the reasons why.
Yeah. Well, here's what I like about it. I can put it, I've designed my life insurance. They can be designed a lot of different ways. The ones that I've designed for myself and my family are designs where you can put money in. And I've designed it to where you can put almost unlimited amounts in, and then you can borrow the money back out from yourself. You can borrow it from yourself tax-free, and you can put the money back in. And so people call it like your personal bank on you or your personal banking system. I've never been comfortable using those types of words, but here's how I use it. When I need large sums of money, I would rather borrow it at 5%. When the insurance company is crediting me at least 5%.
Right.
So it's 0% last time I checked. 5 minus 5 still equals 0. So I like borrowing money at 0% and then paying it back. And so I love the tax advantages and the flexibility and the not being restricted, because for many years it was the only tax-free money I could get. There was no such thing as a Roth IRA for higher income earners. You couldn't get it.
Right.
You couldn't convert to it.
Right.
You couldn't contribute to it. You couldn't get it. So for me, I use life insurance for that. And then of course, I'm a huge believer in it for wealth transfer. I don't think you should really die with a whole bunch of money. I take that from you too. I think, listen, you get one shot at this, and nobody's like, nobody says, hey, I want to work my whole life and then save a whole bunch of money so that when I get to retirement, I can die with it and leave it to someone, right? Like nobody says that. Like nobody sets out for that. And so I think with some smart planning, you should have some life insurance, you should have some annuities, you should have some investments, you should have some real estate, you should have a rainy day fund, and then depending on your risk profile, you would design more or less in one area or the other. Do seminars every week. I go, how much? I'll do this example. I'll show 100,000 married couple. I'll go, how much do you think the tax is on 100,000? Like dollar amount. I'll ask them, how much do you think it is? 25,000, 32,000, 18,000. People are so far off. It's like $7,000 on a mix of Social Security, pension, and IRAs if your total annual income is around 100,000. And that's no state income tax added to that. People get confused by the brackets, and they get paralyzed by the brackets, and they're confusing, right? They are 22%. I don't want to go in the 24%. I don't want to go in the 12%. I'm already in the 12%. I don't want to be in that. And I think because of that confusion and the unwillingness to pay a little bit right now, I think people are putting themselves in a bad spot. They're going to be paying a lot more in the future.
But isn't this also why people need to work with a financial professional? How can an average person do this by themselves? You got a lot of do-it-yourselfers. I just don't think it's possible with all the different taxes that are out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you have to have a professional, a team. I think you need a team, and then it's even more challenging than that because a lot of financial advisors are not allowed to give tax advice. Right? Like they're just not, it says it on their statements, we can't give tax advice. And so one of the reasons we are independent and have remained independent is so that we can go and we can start a tax planning firm, fully disclose that it's separate from our other services, and we can offer tax planning. Right. And right next door, they can talk to an investment advisor, and right next door, they can talk to an insurance agent. Because if you're not doing tax planning, you don't have a retirement plan.